because this video is live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. I'm Adam Steele of Hot Pole Studios, and this morning, so I'm doing a live stream at a stupidly early time for me. This is just gone 9:30 in the morning, British time. And I decided to get my lazy ass out of bed on my day off, and I'm going to have a bit of fun this morning, and we're going to do a mix. Dragged Under, the band of Ryan Bruce, Mr. Fluff, is doing a mix competition with Pro Mix Academy for one of their songs, Chelsea. And I thought it'd be good fun to run through the mix myself. And I'm looking at the files and I'm going to sort them all out. We're going to do some reamping as well. You're probably going to see some of my mix tricks. So let's run the intro and then let's talk about exactly what we're going to do. Okay, so first things first, before I actually get into the mixing too much, I probably won't win this competition for several reasons. Just to be completely open and honest with you, I know Warren Hewitt. He's a friend of mine. I am working on something with Warren right now. So as it stands, I'm essentially kind of a part of the whole Pro Mix Academy thing. Tangentially at the moment, but that's all coming together. So just to make you all aware, I'm very much doing this for fun. If for some reason, I mean, I think it's unlikely, but if for some reason this ended up being, mentioned in the top however many mixers, then I would very definitely speak up and just say, like, look, nice that you mentioned me, but no. Because it would be a conflict of interest. But I just wanted to grab these files and have a play around with this mix for my own amusement, really, and to talk you through a mix that I would do on something that's fairly solidly tracked to begin with. So, without further ado, let's look at these files. So, hopefully this session isn't going to be me complaining, but there are a few things that I had to sort out. So, I dropped all the files in, and right now, let's just make sure you can hear it. It sounds like this.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break.
So, there we go. There were many tracks. I think it's 58 tracks. And they weren't numbered. So I've had to go and arrange them in a way that makes sense to me. I've coloured them in Reaper so I can see what's what. So I've got drums, bass, guitars, vocals, gang vocals. And something I'm going to have to go through and do now is every single file was mono, something that really annoys me. But not just mono, but like the kick drum, for instance. This is the kick, 2 channels of kick. And I've panned them left and right, and I can hear that it's completely mono. So what I'm going to do now is just delete one, and then just make that center panned. And I'm going to have to go through with some of these. Like, there's a one shot on the kick, which sounds completely mono. So one of them's going to go. There's a kick sample there. I'll turn up my headphones, you might want to do the same. I've put no compression or processing or anything on the overheads, so some of these might be a bit quiet for a while. That's the other thing. Every track was absolutely slamming, so just trying to play the song back was clipping my master bus by about 12 dB. So just to be safe, I've dragged every file down by about 12 dB equally, so it ended up at minus 12.4, so that when I played them all together, it didn't just go bananas. So the one shot. Let's just see. Can I fold this down? That's not usually how that works. So I'm going to hide these. I'm going to make this kick one shot, and I'm going to put these in a little folder. This is something I do a lot, and then I can hide that down. So now that becomes a stereo channel of one channel, because this has some stereo reverb information that I want to keep. Okay, so then there's kick out, which sounds really weird and subby. So I'm going to delete one of them. That can go. Hello to everybody who's watching. David Ross, Major Prometheus, Carrot Top Gaming. Hello, everybody. If you've got any questions at any point, do feel free to just shout. But yeah, that's taken my number of kick tracks down from something like 8 to 4. Two of which actually are one shots. So I'm going to put those right at the end of the drums, because that's the way that I do like to work. Is I like to kind of mix and compress and do everything on a kit, and then one shots, keep them separate so they don't get affected by that group compression, so that they punch through nice and clearly. So now we've got snare after snare after snare. So I've just panned them on the snare. That's the same, so one of them can go. Snare bottom. Yeah, they're the same. I'm not even going to pan them. One of them can go. Snare one shot. That's mono, so one of them can go. Snare room's probably going to be stereo. I mean, there's a good chance I'll replace these one-shots with my own one-shots. Probably the drum shots Andrew Wade samples, but we'll see. It could be that I keep theirs, but that all depends. They need to be... I'll just call it snare shot. Hard pan them and stick them in their own folders, so that can all go down at the bottom. Kick one shot, snare one shot. Then we've got 2 channels of one tom. That's obviously a mono source, so one of them can go. And then we've got 2 wait, there's left and right on that, but it's a mono source. Oh, is everything quiet for you guys? Right, yeah, everything's quiet for me at the moment. It's going to get louder, I'm sure. But yeah, just for now then, where's the AW? Ah, it's down by 5 dB. There we go. So there's actually 2 toms on tom 2. That's weird. Right, so tom 2 is going to have to be a stereo group as well. Unusual, but there you go. Right, now we get to the meat of it. Overheads. Do I know any well-made Sound VST synth instruments libraries? Yeah, the Arturia V Collection and Native Instruments Complete. I don't really use anything else. If you use the Slate bundle, there's Anna 2. That's pretty cool. Yeah, there's more stuff out there. Stephen Slate drums I use a lot. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm going to be all sniffly on this video. I apologise in advance, but my allergies have gone crazy. Spring has bloomed just outside the window. I've taken an allergy tablet, but it's early in the morning. It's not quite kicked in yet, so if I sound all snuffly and stuffy, that's why. So these overheads, they are quiet, but that's that's fine. So overheads, OH. Oh, not ho, OH. No, what's happening? I'll call them OH. There we go. Overheads. So I always work with the overheads as a stereo pair. And yes, like I said, I appreciate that these are quiet right now, but they're going to get louder very quickly. And room mics, these nice and big and stereo, they need to go in a group as well. So down here on my mix, I can shrink a lot of these down. So how many channels have I got now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And some one-shots. That's a lot more reasonable. So yeah, it sounds dope, he says. I've not done anything yet, but all that is properly grouped and gain staged drums, which I've eliminated several duplicate tracks and just played it back. When you have a track with plugins on it and you want to send it out through the interface to a mixing desk, will the audio being sent out be affected by the effects plugins? Yes. I mean, in Reaper, if I'm sending out through a hardware output, for instance, I'm going to just, for example, send a track out of, I don't know, line 8. There's a drop down that says post fader, post pan, and you can change that to be post effects or pre effects. So you can choose to send that out before the effects if you want to do that for some reason, but generally by default you can have it so that it will come after the effects. Something I've done to great effect before with things like virtual wahs or that kind of thing before reamping a guitar. So that is the drums setup for us now. We'll come back to mixing them in just a minute. There we go. The only reason that even sounds vaguely loud enough is because those one-shots are killing everything. But that's fine. We'll come back to that in a minute. So the bass is either the most consistent bass player in the world or that's been programmed. It's very thin sounding. Also, the drums to me sound like they've been programmed. They sound like Superior Drummer. Then there's a load of guitars. Some of them like that, this filter, and then there's guitar feedback. Then there's a very Green Day-ish crunch section. I've got guitar leads, which interestingly sound very real to me, but compare that to the rhythm guitars. I can't decide whether they're real or whether they're programmed. I think one of those, the one on the left, is programmed and the one on the right is real. The clicks on the attack are far too consistent on the one on the left, which is interesting, but I mean, hey, if they want to write things that way, they can. So, moving on, this is where it gets interesting, because these guitar solos pretty sure they're not meant to sound like that. I'm pretty sure that's the DI tracks. Luckily, I have a JCM 800 under my desk, so part of this stream is going to be me reamping. It's a pretty cool effect. It sounds like kind of a blended in octave, or like a POG or something. Then we'll get into the vocals, and then there's lots of vocals. So there's L and R vocal.
All that you expect from me, whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
There's chorus 01.
I'm not always gonna be.
Then there's mid harmonies,
I'm not always gonna be.
which I'm going to pan.
I'm not always gonna be.
Then what have we got? Pre-chorus harmonies.
In my eyes.
They need panning as well.
In my eyes.
Verse 2. Again, I don't tend to work like this. Let's get verse, chorus together. Anything else? Verse 01. There's verse 01 and then there's verse dub. So there's a few things I'm going to change in the way that it's been done. Mage Prometheus says, I'm bound to win as this will be my first attempt on something that's not my own poor synthwave. Like it. So the way that I'm going to work is there? Yeah, there is a chorus too. So the way that I'm going to work is that chorus 2 a main vocal as well?
Ever cause you can't help but remember. Let you down. I'll let you down. Escaping great expectation.
Okay, I can hear how the vocals have been tracked through a compressor. I can see that they're relatively solid. I can also hear how the vocals have been quite heavily melodined as well, so there's no need for me to go in and do anything like that. I'm seeing a lot of dubs and layers of vocals. What's C201? Right, so that's a kind of ad-lib track. And then, yeah, so there's a lot going on in the choruses. That's absolutely fine. But what I can do with them is I do kind of stereo spreads rather than left and right. And there's woes.
Whoa! Through it all. Hey Chelsea!
And then at the end there's some
Hey Chelsea!
Hey Chelsea,
Hey Chelsea!
which is pretty cool. And then last but not least, there's 3 sets of gang vocals,
Whoa!
which I'm going to pan 2 of them
Whoa!
and keep one in the middle.
Whoa!
Because the woe lead
Whoa!
is a single vocal. Although,
Oh!
I can hear there's little whoa-ohs, which I'm going to get rid of. Because they will be a clear indicator to anybody who's listening back to the mix that I've not listened in detail and listened for anything that shouldn't be there. So those 2 little bits where there's an extra kind of gate are gone. Now this is where I start doing Reaper's clever tricks. I'm going to select every track apart from the drum, overheads and room. I'm going to deselect those if I can. There we go. And I'm going to do this thing. That's the time. So, actions, silence. There it is. Auto trim, split, remove silence. I've got a ready-made threshold that's quiet enough, and if I hit process, this is going to go through every single file. And there we go. So what that's done is that's got rid of. Let's do that again, because that didn't seem nearly clean enough for my tastes. Let's try that again. Ignore silence shorter than, let's say, 50 milliseconds. And yeah, let's leave it at -70. Yeah, it's a nice leading and trailing fade pad so you don't get any clicks. Preserve timing of non-silent areas, of course. Oh, you can run the signal through the track effects for detection. That's nice. I'm not going to, but that will get rid of a lot. I mean, the drums are going to look like drums, which is good, But further down, all our guitars now, all our vocals, I can see exactly what's what, and it's not going to play me 50 odd wave files when it doesn't need to. So I can see now in block form the setup for the vocals. I can see where I've got... Ooh, I can actually see where there's some what must be dithering noise on the vocal whoa lead. Interesting. So I can split that, clean it right up. There we go. And that's all good. So now we can see nice clean blocks of audio, which is a lot better for my sanity, I've got to say.
No, it's gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Right, so let's begin. I'm going to need a drum group because I've not even done that yet. And I'm going to do a couple of things on my master bus. So I'm going to get Kazrog's True Iron on the master bus before I do anything. With a good bit of strength, a bit less output. Then I'm going to make sure that the virtual tape machine is on because I want to mix to tape, metaphorically speaking, because it's the kind of big, heavy rock track where that'll work. I'm going to do this with the slower tape speed, but otherwise leave it untouched, because the slower tape speed will give me a more defined bass bump and a bit less detail on the top end, which is good because that means I can then start pushing top end on things and it won't get necessarily nasty. So I'll leave them there, and already there we go. The drums already sound slightly more forgiving. The kick drums got more weight without me doing anything. And so let's start by putting the drums in a drum group and work backwards. So let's just solo the overheads. Because not only are they really quiet, let's use the VST3 version. And let's bring these up so I can really hear some overhead. New York. Let's take some low end out of those overheads and then push the output. In fact, no, you know what? I'm just going to use good old trimmer to kick it in the front. There we go. So that's interesting. So this is the overheads without New York, just with a volume. Oh no, so there's two volume bumps. So I'm just going to use a volume bump from trimmer and not from New York. So this is completely clean but volume boosted. And that's with the... There we go. So this is going to have the SSL E channel at the end, because that for me, on every drum channel, I'm going to make this group 1 for the drums, will just give me a bit more crunch. And so, let's see about bringing things out. So I'm going to use FG Stress, I think. Opto mode. Take the output down. How's it sound without? And with? Right, so I just need an SSL EQ in here because now that I've compressed it, there's a low mid thing going on that I don't want. There. Right, there we go. So that's some nice, clear overheads. Yeah. They don't need any high frequency boost either. I'm going to put the drum group through another true iron and virtual tape machine. That way, I get all that nice goodness on the drums before we get anywhere. And that way I'm not going to be adding too much low end on the mix. Let's say that we used a 16 track machine for this, but with nice high headroom, really fast setup, just because I've already got the character going on the master bus. So. Cool. Probably turn this down a bit because it's got loads of character now. It's going to saturate. There we go. So onwards. To the drum room. So what I want out of my drum room is I want loads of character. Not necessarily too much of that big flubby low end. So I'm going to use a custom series EQ. I am going to put VCC channel at the end. And New York in push mode at the start. Because just by really pushing that saturation, without it, sounds a bit flat. With it, a lot more character. So I'm taking out the super low end on the custom EQ. Cool. So it sounds counterintuitive, but by boosting that 600 Hz range on the custom series, I'm getting more of that thing on the snare, which I want the drums to sound a bit more real than they would do in a usual pop punk mix with the kind of samples just sat on top. I do want samples in there to give it that pop, but I want a realism to it. So let's try that in with the overheads. And without. Yeah, there we go. So let's add our kick in. So, right, virtual mix rack again. I can really push the New York on this. Get FG stress going on it. There we go. So, without using any EQ, I've really just driven a saturation and then used a compressor with quite a fast attack, but not too fast in attack to just bring out that gaga. Now, where's that kick out? That needs a whole lot of nothing. That's good. Snare top. Right, so let's turn the overheads and room back on, bring them in. So that needs a lot of work. But again, let's just push a preamp on it. FG stress. Sounds nice. Let's get Revival in there to just bring the top end out. And then snare bottom might not need much. Let's get this mix racked in. Sounding good. Probably needs a bit more snap on there. Again, custom EQ will do that. And a bit. Where's that stuffiness? Oh, I can use some low end there. It's quite a nice under snare mic. I hate that behaviour. Let's see how that sounds in kit context. Still a bit much of that ting 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 ting. Just use a digital EQ on that just to find that particular frequency and tame it a bit. So, ding. There we go. That just dips some of that ring out of it. Just take the output down on the drums here. That's better. Now those toms need to come in. Those two tom tracks are going to need some serious beef. Now let's look at tom 1 first. Where's tom 1? So it needs more level, and that's absolutely fine, because I don't mind pushing level in the plugin stage as long as it's appropriate. I'm going to do something a bit clever at this point. I'm going to add in classic instruments, which is a virtual mic thing with custom tom. And that is a large foundation of what I'm going to do with the toms. I'm going to then make sure it's hitting a compressor. Plenty of makeup gain on it to get a lot more slap out of it. Run that into one of these VCC channels via New York with a proper pushed preamp. Let's just see if that's loud enough in the kick context. Okay, so let's copy that to Tom 2 and see if that does a lot of what I want. So take that away. Cool. Probably do want to push them a bit harder, but I can use a custom EQ in after the preamp there. Boost that low end. Bit more on the top. Yep, and do a very similar thing on the top tom. No, I think the top tom might just be fine. Oops. Absolutely didn't mean to use my mouse wheel there. Let's just stick that in there. Get a bit 200 hertz going on this floor tom and a bit high tom even. There it is. Okay. So that's now hitting the way I like. Lovely. So we get on to bass at this point, which I'm going to make a bass group. I'm going to come back to the one-shots later, because what I like to do is get a mix relatively where I like it before I start sweetening things up, so it doesn't mess around with my sense of judgment and sense of balance. Because if I've got these really nice heavy one-shots on the kick and the snare, I start bringing other instruments up and then end up drowning them out, and then it all becomes a bit of a mixed mess. So if I try and get the best mix that I can before one-shots, then sweeten it up, that's a much more quick way of me getting to a reasonable balance for me. So bass group with bass DI. Hello? Where did my bass DI go? What did I do?
You see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I broke grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be.
Oops. When did I do that? That's stupid. I'll make sure it snaps on and bring that down. Well, I must have had an accident somewhere. Oops, fixed. Oh. And now I've put it back in slightly the wrong place. There we go. Right, so let's get a bass sound that I will like. So let's just put them there. Save. Did I actually bring the dark glass plugin back in? Let me just open my iLock thing. Oh, let's move that away before I start showing all my personal information off to you all. yes, I want to activate that license, and let's just see if I've got the plugin actually installed, because that could be a... I think I've still got the download file, so that might only take a second. But what I want to do, to talk you through it whilst I make sure this all works, is I want to have 2 channels. One is going to be an Ampeg SVT, which is a typical pop punk kind of semi-clean tone. And then, right, so I don't have it installed. That's absolutely fine. Let's just have a look in my downloads folder. I'm pretty sure it's still there. Or is it? Did I actually... No, I didn't. Okay, so I didn't actually download it. So, neuraldsp.com. Let's go to downloads from there. And very quickly get the Dark Glass Ultra again. Because I've... what? There we go. Right, so while that's going... Continue. Yeah, free trial. There we go. It's just the... right, so I need to download the Dark Glass plugin there, and while I do, where is this? So, I'm going to insert an ad, and I'm going to go for a quick ad break. See you in a sec. Cool. So I return. While that is downloading, question: what do one-shot mics do on drums? A one-shot is not a mic. A one-shot is a sample. Basically, just a single sample, one shot. So the same sample will go like. So you can, if you've got a real drum kit, then it's basically sampled separately that you can EQ the hell out of and do stuff that won't, because it won't have bleed on it like a real drum kit would. You can really tighten up a drum sound. And to me, it shouldn't replace the original drum and the original performance, but you can add in, especially on something like a kick drum, you can add in a certain consistency. If you've got a drummer whose feet are going like all over the shop, you can have a drum sample that's very machine gun, blend the two together, and suddenly you get the human element with a much more punchy and consistent sound. Pop punk's a very good genre to do that on. So while we're waiting on that, download is done. I was about to start with the Ampeg, because I personally do not like the sound of come on brain, I don't like the sound of DI'd bass pretty much ever. I very much appreciate why you would have a DI'd bass. You definitely want to have a clean channel to work with, especially when it comes to a mix. I tend to have, especially on distorted guitars now, a clean DI track mostly for a clean gate key, but having options there is also very nice. So that's now installed. What I can do is if I go to Preferences, VST, I can just rescan, and that's going to throw that in there. I'm going to go continue because I've got a trial running. I do need to pay for the Dark Glass stuff, and I will. But just for today, let's just use the trial because it's easier. So I've got a bass group going, and the bass is... like I said, that sounds too close to me. So let's use amplitude 4 on that bass DI. And what we're going to do is we're going to use, I have, where is it? Ampex SVX. So it's the SVT. And I'm going to make sure the cabinet model is off because I don't actually have the amplitude 8x10 cab. I'm going to use a different 8x10 cab. So there we go. There we go. Before I even put the cab on, which I'm going to use Wall of Sound by 2 Notes, that's already starting to sound a lot more like a pop punk bass. So I'm going to link these cabs. Oh, license is obsolete. I have more cabinets apparently. Always good. That'll be the new Mesa cabinet that they're giving away for free right now. So I want to use my Brit Fridge cab, which is a Marshall 8x10. It's kind of like an Ampeg 8x10. And there we go. It sounds like the Shure Beta 52 is the right kind of mic for what I want, which is not to have too much stuffiness in the mid-tier. I don't need too much high-end though, because I'm going to use a second track with that Dark Glass plugin that I just downloaded to give me the character of the mid and the high-end. But I'm not one that subscribes to the idea of, oh, just compress the low-end on a clean DI, it'll be fine. Because for me, that doesn't introduce extra harmonics which fatten the low end up. I don't particularly like doing that way. I'm going to add a little overload here because that means the overload works that when you play particularly heavy notes, it just adds a little bit more harmonic content, which makes things sound thicker and fatter. So more of the high mid-range. Yeah, want the ultra high and low in on the classic there for this tone. It just gives me that slightly scoopy but still quite thick bass tone. So this is where I get clever, because now I've got a bass grind channel. I'm going to send from my clean DI to the grind, but change it to pre-effects. So there we go, there's our second channel. And yeah, Dark Glass Ultra. I'll just get that going. Yes, I know, you already told me about this. This is now a B7K. Make sure this whole thing is off. There we go, I didn't want it going through a cab simulation. Ooh. How much is the Microtubes plugin? It is currently $99, I believe. Maybe I did want it going through a cab. No, I didn't want it going through a cab. Cool, so that sounds really quite thin and grindy, but if I mix that in with the Ampeg, So without, nice and fat but no detail. With, cool. So I've got a bass group that I can now work with. So if I add true iron on the top of that, that's just boosted the high end just a bit. That's good. What else? So virtual mix rack is usually my go-to. But what I'm probably going to want to do here is add a bit of light compression. Also going to use VCC mix bus at this point. I forgot to put that on the drum bus. I'm going to do that now. Oh yeah, that's pushing. And yeah, so where are ye? FG401. Probably 3 to 1. Opto mode. And just knocking a few dB off the top there just to keep it nice and level. Let's get the... didn't actually put mix bus on my drum bus, that's why. So let's just add the mix bus on there and just run the drums. Nice. Could do with a little bit of EQ sculpting, so I'm going to get the custom EQ in after that compressor because the compressor's doing what I want. So there's a couple of things. There we go. Just take a little bit of that kind of low mid range out after both the amps and add a little bit of that 100E. Awesome. Now let's get these guitars in a guitar bus, just so that I can guitar group even. I mean, it's just a naming scheme that I like to use, but it means that I can start hiding things away a little bit. Let's just make a one-shot group because I may use them, I may not, but it's more for organization purposes than it is for any audio routing. Because if I stick all these in their own group, then that means that I can hide them on the mix window. So then I've got drums, one-shots, bass, guitars. If I just get all my guitars into a group there, I can just shrink that down. I'm going to do the same with vocals and gang vocals at this point, so that I've then got groups. I might go back and make a backing vocal group separately from the vocal main group, depending on how these vocals start to pan out mix wise. Because at this point, the reason I'm doing this is partly for my own peace of mind, and partly because now I can add effects which I tend to have at the end of the project. And so if I have an effects group, then I can start to have quite a few of these going. So I'll have, what have I got? Let's just name them before I even add anything onto them. Someone. You are a women right. Beard. Sucktoes89 asks, are you a women right? The internet, man. It's weird people. Moving on. Save. So I'm going to have a small room, a snare plate, vocal plate, which I might not use at all. I'm probably going to leave them unused for now, but let's just start working. I'm going to add in Verb Suite Classics for my room and my snare plate, which again I'm not going to use much of the snare plate, but I do tend to swear by my small room reverb, which gives me a lot of space in a mix. So I use the Bricasti M7 Studio B Close. I'm going to copy that over to my snare plate and use a different setting there, which is the CLA snare, which is from a Sony Dre 2000, which just has a nice on it, which I do really like because it's got like what you might call a double release. It's got kind of a big section and a small section. I'm the most beautiful woman. Yes, I am beautiful woman. Oh man. So the vocal plate, I'm actually going to use... Yeah, I'm going to use lustrous plates on this, but probably try and find a come on brain, quite well scooped, relatively fast plate. I don't know what all these different plate types are, so we're definitely going to be playing around with that. Just out of curiosity, why don't you group the drum effects in the effects group instead of the drum group? There's no such thing in my world as drum effects and like vocal effects. There are just effects, and they go at the end because I might want to add a bit of a guitar to that snare reverb. I might want to add a bit of vocal to it. I tend to have one instance of each sound at the end, and then even though I might earmark it like snare plate, I've called one, that doesn't mean it's only for the snare. That means that's kind of its original intention. But when you start getting creative with mixing, you might often, and I often find, that just a little bit of the right send going to the right thing at the right time can give a nice cohesion, and it means that I'm not doubling and tripling up on both CPU usage, and I'm not messing around with having 3 different instances of a reverb, for example, where if I decide to change a setting, it only changes it on that one. I want cohesion. If I want like a shorter reverb on everything, I want it on everything, and I want to do that quickly. So that's why I do things as a just one thing. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. It's quite enough of that, thanks. So I'm going to leave that as is, and I'm going to add an EQ after each one of these that mostly scoops out low end, and I might have to come back to this and scoop out more low mids depending on sources and tracks, because it's quite a fast song. Which reminds me, I never set the BPM because I'm an idiot, so I'm going to have to go to my project settings and change this to be time base in time, and change my BPM using my number lock to 155. So I'm going to select everything. It still starts at the start of bar 5. Perfect. No, not perfect. Go right to the start. 155. And then everything can move back to the start of bar 5. It's an old habit of mine, is never ever ever start a song from bar 1. Because you never know if you might have a rendering issue, you never know if you might need a bit of a lead in for something. You're always better off, same as working on analog tape, always leave yourself a little bit of a gap at the start, because that way if anything goes wrong, you've got a little bit of time there for it to sort itself out. And it sounds silly, but sometimes you get things like a reverb might, when you hit go on a render, might get a click from something else and end up going like, which will screw up the start of your mix. Whereas if you've left that time at the start, you can at least then render from the beginning. That reverb will have gone by the time your song starts, and then you can go back afterwards at the mastering phase and just cut that start off. There are reasons why I do that, so I thought it was worth mentioning. So we've got drums and bass. Right, so I can now send the bass to the small room. It's something that sounds insane. But between that and micro shift is a very... This is something that Nirvana had on Nevermind, and it's a lot of Andy Wallace's production. Is add a bit of a stereo detuning effect on the bass. And because that stereo chorus then gives the bass some movement, it means that the whole mix sounds a little more lively. Because instead of having a solid ding ding ding, it's got a per pitch subtle panning thing. But I use that focus knob because that then monoizes the real low end, so you don't have too much being screwed around with. Let's move it back down a bit. There we go. Now, on to rhythm guitars. This is where it's going to get fun. Did that make sense? This is where it's going to get fun. Yes. For a second there, I thought I was just talking gibberish. I mean, I am, but... Right, so these two definitely need their own group. Rhythm 1, let's say, and these are going to need some work. So first thing I'm going to do is use True Iron and morph and absolutely slam them. Because what that does is that saturates the whole thing, that brings out some more of those mid harmonics, starts to overtake that 4K brightness that was in there. Without. So that's the kind of thing I'm going to be going for. Virtual tape machine again. Really, really drive this into the ground on the tape machine. So the most saturated tape type, the slowest tape speed, the 16 track. There we go. So that really sounds thick now. So that's before I've done anything really. I'm going to add these to the small room. And let's hear that in conjunction with the drums and the bass. Figured we might need more grunt from the dark glass there, because as soon as I've got one guitar in, that grunt just disappears. Right, now we're getting somewhere. So virtual mix rack again. I'm going to have the guitar group with a virtual mix rack, just with the mix bus on it, just so that affects all the guitars equally. Will I put the drums into the small room as well? Probably not, because they already have room microphones which are really bringing a depth to them. So doubling up would just cause a muddiness on that mix. I might especially go back to that snare and add the separate snare reverb, which is a plate, to give that a bit more depth. But I don't want to add too much because it's quite a fast song. And faster songs, you generally need less reverb so that you get a clearer picture. So... we're getting somewhere. These guitars are now too thick in the mids, which is good, because that means that I can now do little things like bring in a Neve EQ and just brighten the top a bit. And there we go. So I can now bring the volume down on the guitars a little. That's it without all the processing. Less on the output. Right, so at this point, let's run a Reaper EQ on the guitars. And just a couple of things. Didn't take any low end out, so I'm going to do that now. That's much better in terms of clearing up the low end. And I'm going to have a look at the 4K region. Let's see how that fits in the mix. Do I like the folder indent that Reaper 6 has? Yes, I very much like it. I know you can turn it off. No, it works for me because then I can see very clearly these tracks are inside this track is inside this track. Really, really saves me a lot of time. Notifications. What's going on? Alright, it's okay. It's my partner sending pictures of my child to my parents, which is perfectly fine. Those guitars start off with a very definitive click. I might just soften that off because it just sounds a little unnatural. The colours are a bit henning. I'll tell him you said that. There we go, just taking a bit of that unnatural click off the start of the guitars because they started so tightly. Going to use Gullfoss and see what Gullfoss says on these guitars. Cool, Gullfoss is doing almost nothing because I've dipped out that 4K there, that's good. So take a bit of that 3K poke out because I can really hear it poking. Maybe add a bit of revival instead. Yeah, that's it. So let's... nope, don't want to have things on record there. So these lead guitars, when I bring these in, these are just going to be 70% panned instead of 100% panned. So let's try that. Ooh. Very different guitar sound. So this is going to need some life because it's very dark. So needs virtual channel, needs New York. And a good... Let's see how that fits around Rhythm 1. Still very, very dark. So it's SSL time. And then the Neve will probably be a much broader. Cool. So they tend to fit a bit better now, but now I'm going to get a little interesting with this. I'm going to add a fair bit of the small room here. And I'm also going to add a little bit of that Snare verb. I said a little bit. Ooh, yeah, that mid is now honking. Right, let's just use a digital EQ after this to find that honk and just tame it. Right, so and want to fade them out. But not yet. Set point value, point shape to be a Bezier. In fact, let's get rid of that and make that the Bezier. Do. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness. There we go, I've just shaved all the top end off those lead guitars. Right, so there's a lot more to start adding in here now. So there's these... so those have got some character to them. So they need their own little group, and they need to... Let's just start by copying the rhythm processing over here. It's going to be overkill, but... Let's just add a trimmer before all that. the harmony guitars sound cool more in the mix. Well, the proper, yeah. Those ones, yeah. Let's just bring these up. Okay, so the feedback guitars there do need a little bit of work, not much. They need just the most basic of EQs to take out the super low end, and they need quite a bit of room to make them sound big. Give them a bit more brightness. There we go. I do not want them to stand out too much. They're a cool feature, not, not anything else. And then there's this little breakdown. Whoa, too much, too much. There we go, and I do want that. I just copy pasted the effects from one of the other channels and backed off that mid boost because I really don't need it here. Because I just want that to be quite a simple, clean, not overly driven, very Green Day-ish kind of. It's the start of Holiday. It sounds like a Les Paul Jr. just run through something like a Marshall Plexi, just lightly driven. So I want that to be mono. So you get 2, 3, 4, bang. So there's no stereo processing going on there. Where are we up to? So we've got the guitars I've not looked at yet, which are these 4. So they're going to be fun. So that's our next port of call, is they are all DIs. So the first thing we're going to do is turn off the master sends for all of them. And I'm going to add in solo 1, solo 2, solo 3, solo 4. The timing doesn't sound natural. It's a mix contest. I'm not going to get involved there. Yeah, I'm just going to leave that. I can hear with the metronome that it's on the metronome. It's a little pushed, but it's real, and that's fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a little wiring down here. I'll be right with you, folks. There we go. Okay. Right, so what I just did under the desk, I'll get my headphones back, is I turned on my JCM 800 with, let's... buzzing. Where's that buzzing coming from? There we go. Shouldn't be any buzzing coming from anywhere right now. So, I've got a reamp box plugged in to a tube screamer, plugged in to a Marshall JCM 800, which is plugged into my captor, which is plugged into the Torpedo Cab M. So we're going to see how this sounds. Oh my word, that's coming in somewhere. Is this coming through Audio Fuse Control Center? Yes, it is. Let's mute that, thanks. Because that was just, yeah, that was going to be loud. So, import 4, yeah, there we go. So, we can hear what would happen if I send out this particular, let's say solo 1 to hardware output 3, which is my reamp. So that's... So, I'm going to turn on my tube screamer. So that's a tube screamer. I'm going to drive that a little harder. Yeah. Just making sure all the ground lifts are right in the right places. Yep, all the ground lifts are set. It's just a noisy amp with the preamp on high. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep these DIs, but I'm going to quickly throw a gate. In fact, no, I'm not even going to do that. I'm just going to make sure I trim these properly. So what was this thing? Ah, so there was a little bit that I needed to record. So that's now in there. I'm using shift up and down to zoom in on the waveform. So even though that looks like it's clipping, it's not. I've just zoomed in on everything so I can see the waveforms properly. So I'm going to run this. And while I do, cool. Went to get a coffee going. When he came back, the channel changed to some blonde girl doing a medical test. Strange. And so, yes, the high input of my JCM 800 with the settings like so is giving me this sound. So I can now mute that. Ooh. And it's all going through my captor, which is then going to the Torpedo Cab M, which is using... In fact, I'm going to pull up Torpedo Remote so you can see what that's using. That's just a power bank there that's powering the tube screamer with no mains. So I'm going to record input 4 there, and I'm going to send that one out, not those two. And that should give me an extra channel there. Yep, I didn't hear it, but that went in fine. So, mute, solo, record on 4, get some nice harmonies going. Yes, very nice. My camera's decided to not work anymore, so that's going to take me a second to fix that. And while I do, I'm going to get the reamp going for the very last track. The captor is a dummy load for the amp. That is what that is, yeah. There we go. And stop. And, well, that was it for reamping. That was nice and quick, because I got a sound I liked out of the JCM 800. It's pretty hard to get a bad sound out of an 800 with a tube screamer in front. And what I was going to show you, I still have the torpedo cab hooked up by USB. And there we go. So what I'm using, if you can see that, everybody, is the Tall Beast V30, which is my vertical 412. They're all different speakers in it, but using the vintage 30 with a ribbon and a 57. It's become kind of my go-to recently. It's very, very thick in the mid-range, very present, not necessarily too fizzy on top. And I could do this in Wall of Sound, but doing it in the Cab M, because I've got settings that I know I like, and it's got a tiny little bit of that room reverb thing going on. Which computer? I'll talk about that later, but it's a laptop, but it's just a really powerful one. And this is my home setup, by the way. When I'm at the studio, I do have what used to be a more powerful desktop system with a 6700K, but I'm actually using my new laptop by Asus. It's one of the tough things. And so what I can do now is I can have all these DIs not just muted, but thrown all the way back to the nether realm at the bottom. And let's see how these fit in the mix, because they won't fit in a mix at all yet. I'll need to edit them quite a bit. And then let's have a look at these four. So those two probably need to be lowered down and probably quite heavily panned. And get rid of all the hiss. Yeah. Am I going to add some slight delay? Yes. So that's what the delay sends were for. Let's fade these. Probably more like that. Oh. There was a strange silence on that particular guitar there, but that's fine. That works. But yeah, first things first, I do need to clean up the edits on these before I do any sort of delay and stuff. So this is going to have a group just for these. So yeah, these are going to have their own group, I think. No shimmer delay. No, that would interfere with stuff. I really don't want anything that's going to interfere with this mix. Let's add some small room. That's already sounding cool. Let's use... I mean, it doesn't even need... I can turn my 800 off now. That was almost a bit of a... well done. What do I need? I need to make them fit in the mix, which would be Virtual Mix Rack to the rescue. And so I'm treating these all as a group. So let's have a look what I want to use. So I'm using New York and everything, so I'm going to stick with that. There we go. So there's a definite king thing in there that we don't really want. But that's okay. EQ, SSL EQ, yeah, that's my usual go-to. Right, so I've tamed that a bit. That's getting really loud, so I'm going to use a compressor on these that doesn't do much. And now, before we even throw it back into the mix, I'm going to do a couple of things. I'm going to add a bit of that micro shift because I just like this effect. And it's really quite piercing. So rather than EQ it out, I'm going to use Gullfoss. I'm going to try and use Gullfoss anyway. And really tame it. Yeah, that's really taking out some of those piercing frequencies. So let's see how that fits in our context. I am going to cut those off a bit early. It's almost there. It needs a bit more air, I think, which the Recover might do that. Yeah, I still need quite a bit less mid than that. And I'm going to use the air EQ. Interesting that there is that tiny little bit of guitar there and nothing else. Just going to mute that for now, because it seems almost like it was a mistake that was intentionally left in to catch people out. Right, so there's a little bit of a... Yeah, I might want to cut the cymbals out there, but that'll be something that we'll come to when we've got the vocals in place. So what I probably want to do now is turn the mix window off and play this back from the top. Right, so I want to start making some automation stuff here. The bass group, it sounds weird with micro shift on, but I do want it on for most of the song, just not the bits where it's exposed like this. There we go. So yeah, I'm going to bypass it for that section. Yeah, so any sections where it's mostly just bass. Then I want to have no chorusing stuff. There's no bass there at all, that's fine. Right, I don't want to honk on there. Definitely want to get rid of all the drums after that. Da-da-da-da. Ding, 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 ding. So we're getting somewhere. One shots. They're not even on right now. Oh, they are on. Oops. So let's look at these. Right, so this is where I think I want to really bring out the drums before I start adding the one-shots. So first thing I'm going to do is add in one of my favourite plugins, which is the Monster, which is an 1176 on kill mode. There's something on the cymbals that needs to go. You do have to get quite specific with overheads. But what I like to do with overheads is bring a little of that back with the air EQ. No, I'm going to do that on the drum group. to the EQ air there. Just lets a little bit of the super high end back, but that also now affects the rest of the drums. Cool, so the drums are a little sat back, but I've not even touched the one-shots yet. The bass seems to sit quite nicely now, and the guitars are taking up the rest of that space. So let's look at these one-shots and just mute them all and add them in one by one and see what we get. There we go. Well, they're reinforcing the low end on the kick a little nicely. So I'm going to go back to the original kick and sweeten that up with a Neve EQ. Cool. And then what are these snare one shots? So there's this one here that's got some snap to it. If I just mix rack that in with a trimmer into New York, that'll give me some saturation as it comes up, because I probably don't want it to be just pure. And then this snare shot. Ooh, yeah, so that's the bigness on the drums. So that one, yeah, I'm definitely going to want to bring that in. Again, into New York with a trimmer. Right, so another thing I'm going to do quickly is I'm going to change the original snare sound to be a lot more Andy Wallace style, so I'm using regate. There we go. There we go. Now that that original snare's a lot more controlled, I can bring it up. And the one shot will do the rest of the size. I mean, I like that, but there's something in it that I don't like. That's going to be another Bubba Debba gap thing, so that needs everything here to just be cut. And then did it. Yeah, they've got to go. That's probably got a little bit too much on there. So they sound glorious, but just too much. Never did send them to the delay either, so that's what I'm going to do now. Send them to delay 1. And delay 1 is going to be good old Echo Boy. Just make sure I'm sat in my seat properly. Full mix, quarter notes, ping pong, because I always like it to be ping pong, quarter and quarter, feedback, low cut, take high off it. There we go. So a lot less of that. Those toms do sound a little bit flat because they don't have any mids in them. Yeah, there we go. Just cranking the mids on them definitely will help them to sit better because they don't have much in the way of mids. So even though that looks insane, one, two, three, ring. Yeah, I'm going to leave it ringing on that particular bit. cool. We're getting somewhere. Right, it's not quite there. There's something about the bass I'm not too keen on now. Yeah, it's the Ampeg. It's got too much mud in there in the lower range. Let's see if custom EQ can sort that. There we go. Starting to sound like a MIDI bass. Well, I think it is a MIDI bass. Don't hold me to that, but I think this was, if I turn all the effects off, I think it was. I'm pretty sure that was a MIDI bass. Right, so onto the vocals. This is where it gets fun.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break.
So first thing I'm going to do is verse 2, chorus. The only reason I'm not adding chorus 2 in here is because, yeah, verse 2 and chorus, these are all playing it.
Nice. That's covering my face. I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from.
These are one track to me. These shouldn't be 3 separate tracks, and I'm not going to use 3 separate lots of processing. But what I am going to do is, if I stop messing around, add a virtual mix rack on the vocal group, and I am going to add my virtual mix bus with the SSL here. I'm going to add True Iron, which is going to drive the vocals pretty hard.
Nice. That's covering my face. I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea.
Okay, so vocal 1. I'm going to start and see how far I get with Howard Benson vocals, because the Howard Benson stuff's been great to me. I've used it a few times now, so I'm going to make sure that the EQ's pre-compression.
Nice. That's covering my face. I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when. Nice. That's covering my face. I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace.
So this vocal's already been very heavily compressed.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. That's covering my face, I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace.
Right, so
Hey Chelsea,
what I'm going to do
I'm not always gonna be.
is treat this as the lead vocal, maybe even use the tube warmth.
You're still by my side, Chelsea, not always for me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
And not use any reverb, not use any echo, not use any clever stereo stuff on this, because this is our solid mono focus, and then the other vocals will have delay, reverb, stereoizing treatment. So let's just turn off all the other vocals for a minute and just listen to this in context and see if it works.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. And
so that doesn't need to be nearly as loud as it is on the output.
there I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself, sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea.
Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I've got loads and loads of layers of vocals, but what I'm going to do in my mind's eye is I'm going to use this and I'm going to automate the volume on this so that it fits with the rest of the track, because like in the verses it doesn't need as much, and then I'm going to decorate with the rest of the vocal tracks just to add them all in.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes.
Like this doesn't need to be this loud at this point.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, guaranteed. Trying to make peace with
Like that, trying to make peace with my past.
me. Refuse to
That all needs to bump up by a dB.
guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be
And then from Hey Chelsea, it's got to have a boost.
grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself, sometimes I lose my temper. But I can't help myself, sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, myself, sometimes I myself, sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. The less you hope from me, the less I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down.
There we go. My favourite de-esser, Waves de-esser, because it's simple and doesn't do too much. And I try not to make my vocals need too much de-essing. They're usually quite heavily compressed, but also don't have too much high-end boost on them. That's the idea anyway. So hopefully that's all I need.
All that you expect from me, whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey, Chelsea, you down.
Right, and there's that chorus 201, which is overlapping, which is why I've not included it, but I can just copy my settings and try and get that.
You down, I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations.
Right. They can be something just slightly different. I'm going to just pan them instead of stereo trickery.
You down, I'll let you down. Escaping. You down, I'll let you down. Escaping great. You down, I'll let you down. Escaping great. You down, I'll let you down. Escaping.
That one's significantly louder than that one. Right, cool. Double click them both to reset them.
You down, I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down. I'll let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No. I let you down. I'll let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No. Expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down. I'll let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No. Hey, Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey, Chelsea. Hey, Chelsea.
Right, so let's just wind these back a bit, because having noticed that everything's louder than the drums, so the easy fix is turn everything down apart from the drums and then turn your headphones back up a bit.
Expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down. I'll let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No. Hey, Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be expectations. I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations.
Right, so we've got our main vocal. Now we've got this whole set of vocals which go underneath, which have got that stereo effecty thing that I want to happen. So I'm going to copy and paste all my settings from vocal 1. And this is where it gets interesting,
Go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your
because this I want to be super wide.
Go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Go anticipate apologies.
Oh.
Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Try to make peace. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Try to make peace with my. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Try to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Try to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring.
Do I need to use... I think I need to use the VST1 version of this. of the Howard Benson plugin, otherwise it doesn't do the stereo stuff properly. I think that's what happened last time. There we go.
Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes.
There we go.
Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize, hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace.
Right, probably don't need as much compression on this backing vocal. So this is really heavily stereo affected now.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not.
So I probably need a lot less low end on this.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with.
But now let's blend this in underneath the original.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize, hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hate shall say, I'm not always gonna be. There I go again, repeat.
Right, so this all needs to come down, but then so does the main vocal now, so that they sit.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness.
Also, there's a peak,
There I go again, repeating my
which,
mistakes.
there we go, in the upper mids here, which I really need to get rid of.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me.
I want the main vocal to have that kind of upper mid peak to really cut through, but I don't want the doubled vocal to have it because it'll double stack and it'll really start to poke out the mix, and I don't want any of that.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize, hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hate shall say, I'm not always gonna be.
Okay, and that's where the these chorus vocals come in. So let's just listen to these.
Hate shall say,
So these are hard panned.
I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hate shall say.
So these can be processed very differently. These can all just go in a group. Harmony, harmony, harmony. So this can be soloed.
Hate shall say.
So this, mostly, by the sound of it, just needs a good EQing. So there's loads of low-end stuff in there that I don't want. Just going to close a lot of
Hate
these.
shall say.
And there's low-mid stuff.
Hate shall say.
That muddy thing can go.
Hate shall say. I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
And that's already quite heavily processed and compressed and that kind of thing. So I'm going to send this to my vocal plate.
Hate shall say.
Way too much.
Hate shall say. I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me.
I'm also going to put this in that small room, but only a little bit because I don't want this to sound too roomy.
Hate shall say. I'm not always gonna be.
Let's hear this in the context of just the vocal bus.
Hate shall say. I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
Let's just tip.
Hate shall say.
There we go. Get more top end on the harmonies, but also copy. Where did that de-esser go? There we go. The de-esser onto the harmonies after that high end boost.
Hate Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be
And just make sure that's
all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all.
Chelsea.
Hey Chelsea.
Yeah, there we go. Is just being taken away. So let's hear this in context.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I
So
Hey Chelsea,
the vocal group entirely needs to be pushed.
hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong.
What's happening here? I'm trying to add points. There we go. So let's just bump this up by a good couple of dB.
All from Greece. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea,
They're way loud.
hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Right, so Hey Chelsea to the other Hey Chelsea needs that 2 dB boost on each chorus to make it pop.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be
No, not that much.
all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. The less you hope from me, the less I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Right, that harmony group sometimes does have a bit of a thing in the middle. So Gullfoss to the rescue. And that's just going to be taming by, I don't know, 40-50%. And let's just see what that does.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea,
Just boost it.
hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
See what some delay on that does.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall.
Make the stream available as a video. Why do people always ask that? These will always be available as videos because this live stream, as soon as it's finished, will be a catch-up VOD. It might take a few hours to come back, but that's almost always on YouTube how that happens. But yeah, fear not. Let's listen to these.
Can't look in my eyes.
So we've got more verse vocals in verse 1. So let's have a listen to these. Yes, as my mods are saying in chat, do please hit the thumbs up, the like button, because that's very much appreciated. It does help us to do more stuff like this. There we go. They don't even need anything other than maybe a bit of a volume boost. There we go, yeah, if I start doing any mixing on those, that'll start to bring attention to them and actually want them to not have too much attention. I want them to be sat where they are. Sometimes the best thing to do is not do anything. So let's have a look at these woes. Let's move on. Right, so these are going to need some work because these are taking up a lot of space in the mix that I don't want. So the first thing, that Melodyne or Auto-Tune or whatever it is really quite aggressive. So I want loads of... I'll try the snare plate because it's quite a thin sounding plate, and loads of delay on these. And now, let's use Virtual Mix Rack, because why not? This is where I want these to pop, but not take up all that low space that they're currently taking up. So I'm going to cut out all that low end. And 220 Hz, scoop that out too. And then 300-ish, 400-ish. That's all got to go. And then maybe a little further up, like 1K, push that. Because now the volume can come down on these with that little 1K push. And they'll be nice and clear. But just lower down, so they'll hit your ear, but they won't dominate the mix. Pan the crap out of them. They're already hard panned. So I do probably want to bring a little bit of low end back on them because they're a little too gone now. I think on those big crashing sections I'm going to automate the overheads to be a bit less because they're just taking over the mix. So let's just turn off the overheads for a second. That's sounding really nice, and yeah, the overheads were swallowing the mix up. So I'm going to leave the overheads where they are for now. And it's funny, yeah, Marty just made exactly the same comment, probably on a slight delay there. But yeah, the way that I'm going to do that is there's more than one section in this where the cymbals are going and I'm just going to bring them down. But only on those sections, because on most of the track, I like having overheads that give detail on a track. But yeah, there's points when it's a bit like, yeah, too much, killing me, ah, my god. So yeah, it sounded good with the overheads turned off, which is a sign. I've already done some quite drastic EQing on the overheads, and I don't want to remove them from the rest of the track. So what are these? So that's supposed to be lo-fi, apparently. So the fact that the track says lo-fi means that I'm going to do a lo-fi thing with them. So no reverb and delay, but and lo-fi vox. Put these. I do really get annoyed by the fact that they've been sent as separate mono files, but that is what it is. So I'm going to add the Howard Benson vocals. This is the seems a little silly just to use it for this, but it is what it is. So tube warmth, grit, lots of compression.
Hey Chelsea!
Oh, loud. Apologies, headphone users.
Hey Chelsea!
Then there's a lo-fi button on the EQ.
Hey Chelsea!
That's it.
Hey Chelsea!
Let's try that.
Hey Chelsea! Hey Chelsea!
A little bit too much in the way of low mids, so like the 700-800 hertz region.
Hey Chelsea!
Needs a bit more high end to be brought back.
Hey Chelsea! Hey Chelsea! Hey Chelsea!
Ooh, excuse me. That was my stomach grumbling. And those guitars that have got the small room. Where are you? That would be.
Hey Chelsea!
So that needs automating so that the small room isn't on. And without the tube warmth, it'll just be slightly different in the top end. Just bear with me a second.
Hey Chelsea!
There we go.
Hey Chelsea!
Right, so
Hey Chelsea!
it's the snare plate needs to go off as well. Snare plate mute. Automation town. Population me.
Hey Chelsea!
Right, so yeah, the tube warmth, getting back to that, is if I turn that off.
Hey Chelsea!
Very similar.
Hey Chelsea!
Yeah, that does just stop, so I might just add that end back on it. Oh, what happened?
Hey Chelsea! Hey Chelsea!
The song just seems to stop. So I might just add a tiny bit of some kind of reverb on those lo-fi vocals just to let them breathe.
Hey Chelsea! Hey Chelsea!
Small size, tiny amount.
Hey Chelsea!
Yeah,
Hey Chelsea!
there we go. That's more like it. So I've just got to add these gang vocals in now, which always my favourite.
Whoa!
So again with the Howard Benson vocals, it just has all the things that I want in a single plug-in strip, which is very, very useful.
Whoa!
Like high compression, take out loads of low end,
Whoa!
size,
Whoa! 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 Whoa!
and there's a low mid thing that's just busy. And
Oh!
there we go, that can go.
Whoa! Whoa!
There we go, and they're all treated as a group, and let's see how that fits.
I'm not always gonna be. Whoa!
So that whoa lead can go way down in comparison because it's right there.
I'm not always gonna be. All that you expect from me, whether I'm not always gonna be. I'm not always gonna be. All that you expect from me, whether I rise or fall, you'll be
And yes, that was the last line, just to answer an older question. So the next thing that I'm going to do, this is where it gets interesting. I'm not going to do any more master bus processing as such. I am going to add Slate's FGX to make things louder. Just as a heads up, this is going to get louder. I'm going to take it down by a couple of dB on the stream send. I'm not going to crush this to death. I am going to use a little bit of the bus compression here, just the tiniest bit. Harmony in the gang. Whoa! Whoa! Yeah, that's gonna happen. Whoa! I'm not always gonna be. Low mid thing that's. Whoa! It can go. Whoa! I'm gonna turn off FGX again until we're ready, because it's great, but it's very processor intensive. Which, considering I'm doing all this stuff on one computer, it is. Unfortunately, chugging. So I'm just going to close as many windows as I can that I don't need right now. There we go, that'll help. So, that's not hurting my ears now from that low-mid build-up. Interesting that the toms are not very loud there. Time for the essential teardown. Yes. So at this point, yeah, this is where I start looking at details like I said, the overheads in that section. I'm just going to make the automation nice and big. Oh yeah, hear that wash. Right, so that can come way down. There we go. That tom there, that's going to need some automation, because that's it's just too much. Wasn't enough there, but it was too much elsewhere, so there we go. I do want the overheads at the end on that to be quite overbearing, because that's the last little bit. I do want that, but
there I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with
I think for that first section, I'm going to turn that second vocal way down and make it a single vocal almost, so it really draws your attention.
Here I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me and can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea,
Cool.
hey Chelsea.
So I want to push the guitars
Wonder how sometimes I wonder.
on the choruses by maybe a dB or so, just to really give it that energy.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Sometimes I wonder
That feedback's
how we
gotta come
ever
up a
made
lot.
it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be. Hey Chelsea, thought I'd let you hold.
So I'm going to push this whole lot by a dB as well. I'm pushing the wrong thing, that's fine. Where's my... Oh,
Hands cover my face, I'm always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether
I am a complete idiot. I've been pushing just the lead guitar, so let's push all of them.
always gonna be Chelsea. Sometimes I wonder. Here I am again.
Cool, so there. By a good dB or so.
Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Another big crashy section where I want the overheads to come down a little.
Here I am,
And it's probably going to be the same on each chorus there.
hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. I'm not Chelsea.
So that's where I want another push on the guitars.
Hey Chelsea, the less you hold from me, the less I let.
And then a real drop there. So that's where I want a push on the guitars. And I probably want even more of a push. Just going to make that automation nice and big so I can see how much I'm pushing by. And then
Rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Thought I'd let you
Nice.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me too.
Right, there's something not quite right about the gang vocals, so out comes Gullfoss again. Save.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea.
Oh, Gullfoss is the best. So, at this point, I'm going to be a real cheek and put Gullfoss on the master just before FGX, so you can all hear it, and just have the gentlest of recover and tame.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Awesome. So that's only at like 20% on my master bus. The recover's just bringing up some nice low end and super high end. And the tame, if there's anything that I haven't caught at any point, it should just gently wrestle it. So let's just see how we're doing now. From the top.
To me, with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. Wait.
Right, so there's a couple of things already. The lead guitar in the intro is cool, but could probably do a little more. And then definitely at this section here where it's just that lead guitar, it needs way more.
To me, with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies.
Also, I just don't like those double vocals there, so I'm just going to get rid. And I'm going to push the lead vocal single up to compensate because there's going to be a volume dip.
There I go again, repeating my mistakes. You give your heart to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
So I need to push the guitars again at the end. Yep, there we go. And definitely push the vocals at the end as well. All of them. So that "Hey Chelsea" needs to be absolutely blasting, crippling our ears.
Hey Chelsea! Hey Chelsea!
Because everything's going on there. It's one of those songs where it builds and builds and builds and builds and builds.
Hey Chelsea! Hey Chelsea!
Cool. So let's go back to the start, listen from the top, see if anything sticks out as wrong or needs adding or...
To me, will trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea.
Right, so apart from this bit that's just hit my ear, which is the woes are way too loud in the breakdown. Is there any compression going on in the Howard Benson? Yeah. Just bring the input level up. Let's just...
Hey Chelsea! I'm not always gonna be.
Each of these... Yeah, each of these has some sort of build up on it. Yeah, so I'm just going to have to try and EQ out individually on this. There's a saturation on each microphone. There. let's try that with Gullfoss now.
I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether you'll see, I'm not always gonna. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea,
Some of my volumes are going all over the show. What's going on?
I'm not Hey Chelsea, you're still by my side. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea,
Because I'm not compressing now, of course, the second section is just louder.
you'll be Chelsea, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. The less you hope from me, the less I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
We're almost there. Just need to sweeten a few things up now.
Happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize, I feel so out of place, but you're still by.
Right, so I'm just going to use a little bit of air EQ on some of these drums because I just want a bit more snap on the tops.
Back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face. I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, I feel so out of place, but you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused, you can't help but remember. But I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. The less you hope from me, the less I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations.
There's just something on those rhythm guitars. might need... so there's Gullfoss on those. So there's no Gullfoss anywhere on the rhythm, on the guitar group in general. So I think that might just be the final thing. No, might just need an extra notch somewhere just above where we've got one. That might do it. Oof, apologies for the noise. Yeah, so what I've done there is I've found a notch that was particularly offensive in the whole guitar group, dipped it by 3 dB, and then I've boosted everything by almost 3 dB in general to just bring the level back. So apart from FGX, which we're just going to have to trust that works, let's listen to the whole song through, and hopefully this is as far as I'm going to get, because like I said, I'm not expecting to put hours and hours and hours into this to win the competition. This was more of a kind of a walkthrough of how I'm going to do it. So yeah, I have to get back to the rest of my life and such. So yeah, here we go.
To me, will trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me.
So there's sometimes I lose my temper. I want to be louder, and Hey Chelsea as well.
Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Awesome. And I think I'm going to call that, make that my region, and just say that that is my mix. I'm going to turn on FGX, and then I'm going to do a render. So I am going to play this back one more time for you. Hopefully that FGX doesn't cause an absolute meltdown. And then what you're supposed to do is I'm going to upload this as a separate YouTube video, just the song, and then you upload an MP3 to a relevant place, and it's that simple. So yeah, hope you've all learned something. Hit the like button if you haven't already, because that's very much appreciated. Oh, I am going to get some custard creams dunked in coffee. That is not a fair thing to say, although I need some real food as well, so I'm going to raid the freezer. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun. But as you can see, this is 3 hours and a little bit apart from arranging the tracks so that they were in the right order and colouring them. That was all I'd done, and now we have what I would call a finished mix. So if I was to work on an album for these guys, we're talking like 2 a day, maybe 3 a day, 4 days, 5 days maximum for a full album. That's how you've got to be fast. So yes. Okay, thank you everybody. Let's play this back, have a listen, and then I'll see you all at 8 PM. I'm going to be doing a quick remix of the 7-string bass version of Africa by Toto that I did a while back. And we're going to talk about how to make different elements of one instrument sound like other instruments. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So I'll see you then. I know I said 9 o'clock on a stream last night, but it's going to be 8 PM because I've got a meeting with a client at 10:30. So thank you, everybody. Let's play it back, and we'll see you very soon. That is chugging along, so I'm just going to change a few settings. Change my sample rate.
To me, will trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me, can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me.
Right, no, change of plans, everybody. Change of plans, because that FGX is struggling. So I'm going to do a little bit of nice, tasty mastering and render it out, and we'll play the render at the end of the track, at the end of the stream. So, yes, not going just yet. So I'm going to put Ozone in before FGX. I would like a bit of a vintage low-end bump.
Here I am again, I always get it wrong.
Cool, a little bit more of that high boost, that sweet, sweet high boost. I think that is going to call it.
I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hate Chelsea. Hate Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused you can't help but remember, but I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hate Chelsea.
Cool, so that's boosted it a bit. Going to make sure the volume at the loudest bit isn't going above -14 in FGX.
Rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hate Chelsea. Hate Chelsea. Hate Chelsea. What do you expect from me? Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hate Chelsea. Hate Chelsea. Hate Chelsea. What do you expect from me? Whether I rise and fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hate Chelsea. Hate Chelsea. Hate Chelsea.
Cool, so I'm going to put this in the relevant place. I'm going to call it blah 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 time selection, which is the same. Export wave 24-bit. Also, secondary output format. This is new in Reaper. I can make a 320 kilobit MP3 at the same time. So it's going to render that for me, and we're going to listen to it all the way through in about 3 minutes. Just gives me quick time for a bathroom break. Thank you everyone for watching. I'm going to be right back to have a listen. I'm going to go to the men's room whilst that plays out. Reference against another popular mix, which I might do off stream, but I can't see myself changing very much. So close project, and there we go. Listen to the CPU go relax. So let's just make sure you can hear this by using restream on a local broadcast. And then insert our media file from wherever the flipping heck I just put that. Mix Chelsea. Come back, Hawkwind. Oh, you could hear it sped up. Right. Of course, restream. I always forget about that. So, where did that go? That's always hilarious. I'm going to hear that back on the stream when I play it back and be like, whoa, that's funny. So this is what my mix looks like. It's not overly compressed. It hits -14 sometimes. At times it will touch the tops, but it's not going to be overly bearing. One of the things that they stipulated in the rules of the competition is it's not a loudness war, so loudness doesn't win, which is good. So let's listen to this.
to me with trust that it won't break. Anticipate apologies, happiness not guaranteed. Trying to make peace with my past, but it's my enemy. Refuse to speak with me and can't look in my eyes. When you see someone staring back that you don't recognize. Hands cover my face, I feel so out of place. But you're still by my side to catch me when I fall from grace. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. Here I am again, I always get it wrong. Sometimes I wonder how we ever made it this long. All the hurt I've ever caused you can't help but remember, but I can't help myself. Sometimes I lose my temper. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea. The less you hope from me, the less I'll let you down. Escaping great expectations. The more I promise you, the more I let you down. I can't meet great expectations. No. Hey Chelsea, I'm not always gonna be all that you expect from me. Whether I rise or fall, you'll be with me through it all. Hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea, hey Chelsea.
Awesome. So I may quickly revisit the mix after the stream just to look at the whoa group had a bit too much high frequency that was bunching up a bit, and the S's on the vocals were just getting a little bit distorted there. But otherwise, just about everything I think fits perfectly well, and I'd be just about happy to send that off to be judged. So that's it from me this morning. I'm going to be back, like I said, about 8 p.m. So thank you everybody for tuning in. We're going to be mixing 7-string bass later to sound like a whole bunch of instruments. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And so I will see you then. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.